Hi everyone, this is Monique with another project designed for Wild Orchid Crafts on behalf of the Wild Bunch. So today I'd like to share with you a tag that I designed for a friend of mine. First I started with a piece of medium weight chipboard and I covered both sides with paper from the K&Co Madeline collection. I then used the Tim Holtz tag and book plates die to cut the tag shape out of the chipboard. So once I had the tag cut, I started by layering lace along the bottom here. I started with the Ivory flat lace that you can buy from Wild Orchid Crafts. I then layered two more laces from my stash, followed by the 4mm white flatback pearl string. In this bottom left-hand corner, you'll probably recognize some of this flower arrangement from my first tutorial video on how to make metal flowers with the Wild Orchid Crafts metal embellishments. So you can see the two gold leaves on the bottom there, which were created using the Filigree gold square decoration. On top of that I layered a 35mm Trellis rose, which is from the mixed white cream tone pack. I then took my blending tool with a little bit of walnut stain ink and just lightly added ink to the tips of all the petals just to give a little bit of color variation. I've added two of the white tulip flowers here, and again I used my blending tool with some walnut stain distress ink on the tips, and then I sprayed it with some of my Lindy Stamp Gang sprays to add the pink color there. I've added a couple of the white paper heather stem flowers on the back here, and you'll notice again I used I think this was brushed corduroy ink with my blending tool just to accent the ends of the leaves there. I used several of the gold crystal drops on gold stems here. Right here I've got a full stem with 5 crystals. I also cut one of the stems down, and I've got one here with 2 crystals, and you'll also see that I've tucked a couple individual crystals in beside these flowers here, and all I did was I untwisted the wire and pulled the crystal off the stem and glued them in place. I've got a few small green leaves from my stash. I've included a 15mm open rose. This here is the sepia tone. However, there's a earth tone pack of 15mm roses that has a beautiful brown color that will work just as nicely here. I also have this Ivory Sweetheart Blossom, and I used some Victorian Velvet Distress ink with my blending tool and brushed it onto the tip of the petals. I also spritzed it with a little bit of the Blazing Sun Lindy Stamp Gang, and the center of these is actually a very light yellow color, and what I have done is I've actually taken a paintbrush with a little bit of water and I painted some perfect pearls on that just to darken it and so that it shows up a little bit better. And you'll see in the background here, very faintly, I have 2 of the dark brown skeleton leaves as well, just to finish that arrangement off. Now in the upper right hand corner here, I've added another Sweetheart Blossom that's been altered in the same way as the one down here. I've also got another 15mm open rose there. A few leaves from my stash, and you'll see one more crystal drop tucked in there. This here is one of the beautiful Filigree antique gold butterfly embellishments, and I added a few of the 3mm pearls that you can get from Wild Orchid Crafts as well. To finish the front of the tag off here, I've added some seam binding in a variety of different colors. I've got tattered rose, antique linen, and frayed burlap. So that's the front of the tag. Now if you flip the tag over, I left it fairly unembellished. However, I did include filigree gold corner here, which I glued down to the back of the tag, but I left it open so that you could tuck this little booklet behind. And all I did here was I included this booklet. This is a little note instead of a card for the friend that this is going to. Here again is another Ivory Sweetheart Blossom, but this time I just used a little bit of the brushed corduroy ink instead of the Victorian Velvet like the two on the front. So if you take this clip off, this is actually a trifold, and I've written a little note to my friend in there. Now, one thing I will add to this is that this front is only glued up to where these flat back pearls are. So if you had a tag, you can slide that right in behind the lace and it would fit in there really nicely. I hope you like this project, and if you're interested in purchasing any of the products I used, all you have to do is look down in the description box. I'll have a list of all the product codes along with the product descriptions and a link to the Wild Orchid Crafts website. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.